to turn the mic over to Patrick Hussey for the always insightful Liberty Blast. Thank you, Mike. It's good to be here with you all. Well, tonight, as usual, I have two quotes. This one's a bit longer than usual, but it's very interesting. I discovered it a few years ago. If you're like most people, you believe that we have free markets in the United States. I'd like to offer the following quote from George Stephanopoulos, September 17th, 2001, on ABC Good Morning America. Well, what I want to talk about for a few minutes are the various efforts that are going on in public and behind the scenes by the Fed and other government officials to guard against a free fall in the markets. Perhaps most important, there's been the Fed in 1989 created what is called a plunge protection team, which is the Federal Reserve, major banks, representatives of the New York Stock Exchange, and the other exchanges. And there they have been meeting informally so far. They have a kind of informal agreement among major banks to come in and buy stock, prop the market if there appears to be a problem. They have, in the past, acted more formally. Today, this group is known as the President's Working Group on Financial Markets and manipulates stock, bond, and commodity markets on a daily basis. Second quote. It's from The New Freedom by Woodrow Wilson, circa 1913. Since I entered politics, I have chiefly had men's views confided to me privately. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of somebody, are afraid of something. They know there is a power somewhere, so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive. They dare not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. President Woodrow Wilson speaking about the Federal Reserve. By the way, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about how the Federal Reserve violates the U.S. Constitution, we have Fiat Empire, which is a very informative DVD for $5. I also recommend the book, Your Money or Your Life, Why We Must Abolish the Income Tax by Sheldon Richman. Very good book. So, on the subject of sound money, Texas Congressman Ron Paul has called for an audit of U.S. gold reserves to see if they're still there. They haven't been audited since 1957. How do we know? On the subject of sound money, Nicholas Taleb, who correctly predicted the 2008 economic collapse and profited from puts on S&P 500 index, has announced that he thinks U.S. government bonds, U.S. treasuries, are near collapse. Given a debt to GDP ratio of 100%, this is a fairly obvious conclusion. Taleb has been right throughout the U.S. economic crisis still underway. He has been working with hedge funds to profit from this event when it occurs.
It's behind me, honey.
On the subject of economic liberty, the criminals in Congress are working hard right now to increase sales taxes on the internet. With the warm and friendly Main Street Fairness Act, which if passed would violate the Constitution as per the 1992 Quill case. Congress keeps bringing this issue back over and over again. Call your Congress critter today and tell them no on H.R. 5660. On the subject of individual liberty, with a number of polls showing a sustained level of opposition to the Democrats' health care tyranny, efforts more than 5 months after passage, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius said the Obama administration has a lot of re-education to do heading into the midterms. How Orwellian. On the subject of constitutional government, in an unprecedented act of unconstitutional abridgment and overreaching presidential power, Barack Obama is poised to call the United Nations Human Rights Council vultures down on the state of Arizona. In this report, the federal government will turn over to the UN control of all action regarding Arizona border policy. On the subject of individual liberty, John McCain's attack on liberty. Anyone paying attention knows that John McCain has been a big government globalist neocon for virtually his entire senatorial career. Lately, however, McCain has outdone himself. He has introduced 2 bills in the U.S. Senate that are about as Machiavellian as they could be. I am referring to Senate Bill 3081, a bill that would authorize the federal government to detain American citizens indefinitely without trial, and Senate Bill 3002, a bill that would authorize the federal government to regulate vitamins, minerals, and virtually all health and natural food products. Senate 3081, introduced by McCain, who despite overwhelming evidence claims to be a conservative, would not only take away your right to a trial, but would also allow the federal government to arrest and imprison anyone the current administration deems hostile. Now let's see how they deem people to be hostile. Again, on constitutional government, the Department of Justice lists constitutionalists in their extremism guide. A recent Department of Justice guide for investigations of criminal and extremist groups lists constitutionalists alongside organizations like Al-Qaeda and the Aryan Brotherhood. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a constitutionalist is a person who adheres to a form of government according to constitutional principles, but the DOJ's documents are attempting to characterize anyone professing to be a constitutionalist as a violent terrorist. Black is white, slavery is freedom, strength is weakness. On economic liberty, Senator Jeff Bingaman, a New Mexico Democrat, introduced the Automatic IRA Act of 2010 last month. The new legislation would require all firms with 10 or more employees that don't already offer a retirement plan to automatically enroll workers in an IRA. Workers who don't wish to participate would need to take action to opt out or change the default contribution amount and investments. Remember that although this law would be voluntary for now, the goal of the liberal progressives is to make it mandatory for everyone. It's the camel's nose under the tent. At one point, Social Security was optional for many types of workers. Some of you who've studied the history of Social Security may know this. It didn't include self-employeds, farmers, etc., and it was only 1% of your income. Now look at the creeping progressive tyranny of a failed system that we have today. It's Social Security 2.0 that they propose, and they want to tax you to pay for it so they can waste the money to buy more votes. On the subject of non-interventionist foreign policy, the AP reports the United States wasted billions of dollars rebuilding Iraq. Big surprise. They cite a $40 million prison that sits empty in the middle of the desert, a $165 million children's hospital that sits empty in the desert. They spent $100 million on a waste treatment facility, more than triple the budget for the facility, but raw sewage still streams through the street. At least $5 billion has been wasted by these clowns building an empire of debt.